lake, that's right. Someone might have seen the story before. It's no ordinary lake, though. This lake is full of crystal clear, pure water. So clear you can see straight to the bottom. And some people say the lake is magic, for it helps the princess cast their spells, and it gives the king strength in battle. And it makes the ladybugs in the forest oh so very adorable. But there is one creature in the kingdom who does not like the lake, and that is the serpent, because as long as it's here, nobody will want to drink his poison and turn into one of his stinky trolls. Like that troll right over there. I'm sorry. Well, unfortunately, our story does begin with the serpent. Well, once upon a time, come on out here, serpent. A serpent was pacing back and forth on top of his balcony, scratching his head, trying to think of a way to make everyone drink his poison, when suddenly a thought struck him like a bolt of lightning, and he shouted, "Aha!" You can shout that if you want. Very good. The serpent ran right back to his dungeon and said, "Troll, troll, come on over here. I've got a terribly wicked plan." The troll and the serpent put their heads together and started to whisper. Their heads got lower and lower and lower. The lower their heads got, the more wicked their mischief became, till they were practically lying on the ground. Or they did. And that's when they hopped to their feet and howled. Late that night, under the cover of darkness, the serpent and his minion slithered down to the lake. They snuck and they sneaked, they crept and they creeped. When they got there, they crouched down by the water's edge. The serpent had two long fangs that he stuck out into the water. He started to pump it full of his poison. The lake began to bubble and boil until it was no longer crystal clear, pure water, but ugly, dark, polluted water. The serpent and the troll jumped to their feet and let out a wicked laugh. And then they did a silly dance all the way back to their dungeon. Why don't we give them a great big boo? But you can clap and cheer for the silly dancing, because that was kind of cute. Very nice. And the very next day, the ladybug woke up. She yawned and stretched her antenna. And decided she's going to go down to the lake to have a morning drink. So come on out, ladybug. She came right down to the lake and was just about to drink the water when she stopped and took a sniff. She thought to herself, "This water smells funny." And she said, "P-U." Can you say P-U? She's very quiet, ladybug. Well, the ladybug scratched her antenna, trying to think of what the smell could be, when suddenly it occurred to her that this was the same smell of the serpent's poison. She remembered, because the serpent caught her once and tried to make her drink it, but she escaped. So, the ladybug had a plan to save the lake and save the entire kingdom. She flew as fast as she could into the forest. She started to fly under tree branches, fly over logs. For a moment it seemed like she might be going around in circles. But finally, she made her way to the king's palace and stopped right before his great oak doors. She knocked on them 3 times. And who should step out but King Rowan himself? He walked all the way over to the ladybug, said, "Well, hello there, ladybug. What seems to be the matter?" She said, "Oh, your majesty, it's terrible. You see, the serpent has poisoned our lake." The king heard this and said, Do not cry, ladybug. Well, you see, when I was a wee lad, the unicorn taught me how to play a tune on this horn hanging around my neck. And if I play that tune just right in the hour of greatest need, I can summon her from the mountaintop. So with that, King Rowan clapped the horn to his lips and gave it a great big blast. There might be something stuck in there, Your Majesty. You want to shake it out a little bit? All right, let's try it. Oh, much better. There we go. Well, the king and the ladybug began to look for the unicorn. They ran through the forest. They looked up high in the tree branches. They looked down low on the ground. They looked over their right shoulders, over their left shoulders. The ladybug was searching so vigorously it almost seemed as though she wasn't searching at all. But finally, she came back to the king and said, "Well, Your Majesty, I've looked everywhere, but there's no unicorn." said, well, if I wasn't able to summon the unicorn with my horn, then I know of a very wise queen on top of Crystal Mountain. Follow me, Ladybug. We will go tell the queen. So the Ladybug followed King Rowan up the side of Crystal Mountain. Right this way, Your Majesty. Did you want to join us on the mountain? She's not much of a mountain climber anyway. I don't blame her. So he started climbing up the side of Crystal Mountain, which is made entirely out of cheese. You're right. They started grabbing onto the cheese blocks to climb up the mountain, but it got kind of melted, and he started sliding to the right and sliding to the left. The king was slipping backwards, which is right over here, this way. Yes. He was teetering off a giant cliff, and he screamed. Fortunately, the Ladybug spotted something besides herself. She said, look, why don't you just take the stairs? King smacked his head and said, you're right, I'll just take the stairs. So he made his way up. But by this time, he was starting to get really thirsty. And guess what would be really helpful if a turtle were to join us on our journey? Come on over here, turtle. So, there they were, climbing up the mountain. It's been about 2 days. They hadn't had anything to drink. Well, their mouths were dry, and one by one, they collapsed to the ground. They were dying on the side of the mountain, dying of thirst. This could have been the end of our story if it wasn't for the turtle. Oh, you can't fall on your back and die. Because if you fall on your back, you'll never get up again. You might, maybe, are you good where you are, turtle? You're good, okay. Well, anyway, the king, because he gets to save the day many times in the story, King, he jumped to his feet and he ran up the last few steps to the princess's palace and knocked on the doors, which were right over there somewhere. And the princesses came out. He said, hello, Your Majesty. What seems to be the matter? And he said, my friends are dying on the mountainside. Quick, we're all so thirsty. So the princesses rushed down the mountain and started gently touching everybody on their heads with their magic wand. As soon as their heads were touched, their mouths were filled with great big gulps of fresh spring water. If you're using your imagination, you can almost feel the water. So they hopped to their feet and cheered, huzzah! This is an enthusiastic bunch, you can really tell. And Queen Nimue lifted her wand and said, now, good people of Middle-earth, tell me why you are dying on the side of my mountain. You all know you have to bring water up here. The king said, well, we would have brought water if the serpent hadn't poisoned our lake. The queen put her hands on her cheeks along with the princess, and they gasped. The queen said, well, when I was a wee lass, the unicorn taught me how to whistle a tune, and if I whistle it just right, I can summon her down from the mountain. And did you know that unicorns can purify water with the touch of their horn? So with that, Queen Nimue puckered up her lips and started to whistle. The king, the princess, the ladybug, and the turtle ran down the mountainside to look for the unicorn. Right over here, everyone. They ran all the way to the north. They ran all the way to the south. They ran to the east, to the west. They looked in front of the person behind them. They looked behind the person in front of them. They looked down behind them through their legs. They even called out, unicorn! Where are you? Anybody find her? No? Well, they walked back to the queen with their heads hung low. They started to sniffle as though they were going to cry. And the queen said, do not despair, good people of Middle-earth, for perhaps the unicorn is down at the lake right now, purifying the water as we speak. We must go down and meet her. But I'm afraid that is our only hope. The Queen Nimue led the group of weary travelers down the side of Crystal Mountain into the enchanted forest. The queen and the princess held their wands high to light the path. The enchanted forest is usually a lovely place, and the trees had been drinking up the serpent's poison from the lake, and now they thought their friends were their enemies. They started to throw thorns on the ground. Everyone had to tiptoe carefully over the thorns, but once in a while they'd step on a sharp spike and jump 6 feet high, shouting, ouch! Oh, my tootsies! Ouch! By now, they were doubled over in half. Their knees started to wobble, their mouths were dry as deserts. They didn't think they were going to make it, when suddenly they burst out of the line of trees and saw their lake, which was now nothing more than a dark, polluted puddle. They collapsed by the water's edge and were so sad. You could all collapse right over here, right down there, and they began to cry. But there was no unicorn to be found, and everyone in Middle-earth was miserable that day except the Serpent. He actually thought this was funny. He said, "Oh, look, Troll, and my wicked plan has worked. All we have to do is dunk their heads in the poison long enough for them to drink, and the whole kingdom will be trolls like you." So the Serpent and the Troll crouched down right here behind some bushes and prepared for their attack. But the Serpent made a terrible mistake, for he had crouched behind ragweed, and if there's one thing that makes a troll sneeze, it's ragweed. The Troll and Serpent started sneezing up a storm. Queen could tell she was getting sneezed on, and stood up. She pointed her wand at the bush and said, "Hark, do you hear that bush? I do believe it's sneezing. I don't think that's a sneezing bush. I think that's an ambush." Because it's... never mind. Quickly, to the other side of the lake. Everyone hopped up and ran to the other side of the water. King Rowan came right here on his battle line, and he got down as low as he could, and he started sneaking towards the bushes. Well, the Troll and Serpent put their fingers underneath their noses to hold in their sneeze, but their lungs started to grow bigger and bigger. They were so full of air they thought that they were going to burst. And that's when the Trolls and the rest of the audience let out the biggest sneeze you've ever heard. The king was blown over onto his back with his arms and legs wiggling in the air like a little dead beetle. Well, the bad guys jumped out, getting ready to skewer the king, when the princesses hopped up. They lifted their wands high and pointed them at the Troll and Serpent, and you see what's happening? As the princesses wiggled their wands, golden light shot out, making the Serpent and Troll shrink smaller and smaller and smaller, to look like little ants. The king stood back up and dusted himself off and looked around confused. He said, "Wait a minute. Princesses, I do believe you made them too small. Can you make them just a wee bit bigger? I can't fight something I can't see." The princesses wiggled their wands again, but were so tired and thirsty, their spell went out of control. The Serpent and Troll grew till they were taller and taller than trees, and a great slow-motion battle began. Yes, you can fight now. There we go. Steel clashed against steel. Sparks flew in the air, illuminating the inky black water of a once beautiful lake. The princesses tried casting more spells at the Trolls, but only sparks shot from the tips of their wands. They were all out of magic, and our king was running out of might, but he was much too tired. The Serpent and the Troll were much too tall. It wasn't long before they knocked the sword from the king's hand. He fell to his knees and lifted his shield high above his head. And that's when the Troll looked into the shield and saw something she had never seen before. Her own reflection. The Troll thought she was quite beautiful. Until now, when she saw how wicked and ugly the Serpent's poison had made her. The Troll screamed! She ran back to her dungeon and dove under her bed where she cried for her mommy. Well, this infuriated the Serpent. He came right over here to the end of the lake, placed his sword upon the ground, and stuck out his hands, spread his fingers wide. You could put that sword all the way down, just drop it. There you go. You're going to use both hands to cast your spell. And he shot blue lightning out over the entire kingdom. It hypnotized them all. Their eyes grew wide as saucers, their arms stuck out in front of them like they were sleepwalking. Even the Troll came out of her dungeon. They all crowded around the lake and crouched by the water's edge. They cupped their hands full of poison. But the Serpent had enchanted the water to look crystal clear again. They drew the poison up to their lips and were about to take a drink. But suddenly, Queen Nimue snapped out of her trance. She said, "Wait, I just realized I've been whistling my tune wrong this entire time." The queen started to whistle like she had never whistled before. Everybody threw the poison back into the lake, making the serpent even angrier. Now yellow lightning shot from his fingertips, making the lake look like lemonade. They all loved lemonade so much, they all knelt down close. Their heads went closer to the poison, their mouths opened wide. But King Rowan hopped up and said, "Wait, I do believe I just remembered my part of the tune." He started blasting away on his horn. They threw the poison back into the lake once more, and by now the serpent was... Do you have a ladybug on your finger? Oh, he saw red lightning from his fingertips, making the lake look like pomegranate juice. Nobody could resist the allure of so many antioxidants. They all cupped their hands, threw the water to their lips. Their noses were about to touch the poison. But the serpent would not win this time, for as the music of the king and queen combined, it was carried away by a mysterious wind. Higher and higher and higher it flew, till it reached the highest mountain peak in all of Middle Earth. And there at last, in the hour of greatest need, the unicorn did hear the music. She stopped to see everyone about to drink the poison, and in a flash stood between the serpent and the lake. The serpent let forth his most powerful magic. Blazing bolts shot from his fingertips, forcing the unicorn backwards. Her back hoof was about to touch the poison, but she refused to yield any further. And in a rage, the serpent lunged to push her in, but he pierced himself upon her horn and fell. Wearily, the unicorn turned to the lake, and as soon as her horn touched the water, it was instantly transformed to be crystal clear and pure once again. Everyone took great big gulps of that fresh water, even the troll. And what was so amazing is that when everyone stood up, they saw the troll peel back her helmet, and she was no longer a troll, but the most adorable creature you'd ever seen. Oh, look out for your sunglasses, troll. And as one last gift from the unicorn, out from the sky came the most beautiful, mystical, magical polka. They started jumping up and down, and twirling round and round, and clapping their hands and tapping their feet, having a jolly good time, that's all. But they stopped when they saw the serpent crawling towards the lake. He said, "This water, does it heal wounds too?" He dove into the lake, body and all, and started thrashing about. The scales melted right off of his back. His serpentine head fell into the water, and when he popped out of the lake, he was no longer a snake, but the most handsome chap you've ever seen! And he started to dance the silly serpent dance. Whatever he did with his arms, everyone else did with their arms. Whatever he did with his legs, they followed. They were all so happy, they started making up their own silly dances. They danced this way for 3 whole months. By the end of their celebration, they gathered around their precious lake, lifted their arms to the sky in gratitude, and let out the loudest cheer you've ever heard. And then the silliest thing yet, they turned to face their audience and took a great big bow to roars of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for these wonderful actors and actresses.